Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the live. I am Gail, and I am a transformational leader. I have utilized different methods throughout my life, but most recently, I've created a framework which is awareness, reframe, and anchor in order to become a better version of yourself. Anchor is, I use affirmations, I should say, for anchoring. And it has been very, very, very effective in my life. It has totally assisted me. Once I was aware, which I identified some limiting blocks that I was facing, and then I reframed them, which means I kind of challenged my thinking, like, what if it is not what I've already believed? Your belief system is very important. And then once I realized what I wanted to do or what I needed to do, I anchored it with affirmation. And I prefer affirmations in the evening because if you do them right before bed, you get the benefit of your subconscious mind helping you. So today, before we start the affirmations, and we'll do that last, I want us to address and discuss. And as you're coming into the room, feel free, please, to tell me, I can see what your screen name is, but what your name is and where you are, where you're from. If you've ever done, participated with affirmations, what do you know about affirmations? Have you ever tried them? Do you know anyone who's ever tried them? What do you think they are? Do you think they can be helpful? So as you're coming into the room, just relax. I want this to be interactive. I am not a lecturer. I'm not a professor. I am someone who can guide you because I know the way. I've been on the same path. So I'm able to help. And that's what I'm here for. So tonight, I've titled this session, The Story That We're Telling Ourselves. And we're going to start with awareness. So tonight isn't about whether you should stay or go. It's about discovering the belief that's making the decision for you. Okay? What we need to do is, as we have thoughts, we must challenge those thoughts. As they come into our life, we must challenge those thoughts. Where did these thoughts come from? Is this really who I am? Did I adopt these beliefs from someone else? So, because the story that we tell ourselves is the story that we replay, it's the story that we make decisions by, and it's the story that we decide to live our lives. So it's just very important that we challenge that. So tonight we're not going to talk about your decisions on whether you should stay in a particular place or leave any particular place. It's more about discovering the belief that's making the decision for you. Who taught you that leaving means failing? This is something that I recently encountered actually with one of my nieces. She made a personal decision and it took me off guard. And I immediately said to her, well, why would you do that? You just re-enrolled in school. Like, why would you quit? Now, she currently has a bachelor's. She's a professional. She's a mother also. So she has limited time. And she decided that she wanted to go back and get a second degree. So I was all for that. But right after, she decided that never mind. Like, she finished the semester and decided she wanted to try a different path. So I said to her, well, you started, so you can't quit. And later on, it kind of, in my quiet time, I realized, why can't she quit? If she has tried it, she's done a semester, and she already have a degree, and she doesn't want to invest more time, then why is her quitting equating failing? Because it's not. And so we have to challenge those beliefs that we have, because not every belief that you inherited, not every belief that you were taught deserves to become one of your lifelong principles. So, as I said, my name is Gail. I'm a transformational coach. I help people move forward in their lives, identify their limiting beliefs, and transforming lives. That's my gifting. That's my calling. And it's what I wake up every day to do. And what I'm sharing tonight is just, we're going to do our anchoring a bit. We're going to do our affirmations. But before we start the affirmation, I like to have a topic that we need to just think about. You don't have to make any decisions. It's just something for you to mull over in your quiet time. Then you can see how it applies to you. But tonight we're just discussing that failing is not the same as you redirecting your life. You can change your mind. We're kids and we're growing up. The thing people love to say is, winners never quit and quitters never win. But sometimes quitting is not giving up. You are redirecting your life, and that's okay. You don't need anyone's permission to do that. So we're going to reframe this and say, fear will tell you when you're ready to redirect your life, when you're ready to make a different decision. It will say to you, don't disappoint anyone. You've already invested too much time. They'll call you a quitter. This is what fear tells us. Starting over means you failed. None of that's true. Because wisdom says to you, growth requires reevaluation. You can't stay the same because you're constantly growing, you're constantly evolving, so you can't remain the same. Wisdom says that experience is never wasted. Yes, you may have done something for 5 years and now you're ready to branch and do something else. Those 5 years weren't wasted. You got knowledge, you have experience, you've learned, you have gotten a lot of lessons. So absolutely not. That was not wasted. Wisdom tells you that your value isn't tied to staying. Your value is not tied to staying in friendships. It's not tied to you staying in relationships. It's not tied with you staying on a particular job. You understand your value. You're valuable just as you are. So you don't attach that to anything or anyone else. And then lastly, wisdom tells you that every single season is preparing you for the next season. So I want to ask you, if you're in this room, which voice have you been allowing to make decisions for you? Has fear been making your decisions, or have you been relying on wisdom? And before we go into the evening affirmations, and I have about 10 affirmations that I wrote just specifically for this topic. But before we go there, I want to ask you and give you a little homework, okay? This is for you in your quiet time, for you to think. You don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to judge a decision. This is just for you to be introspective to yourself. And here are your questions. Anytime you have to make a decision, and a major decision, I'm not saying what I'm going to have for dinner. I'm not saying, what shirt am I going to wear today? Um, you know, what time should I, leave to make a certain route? No. Anytime that you are going to make a decision, I'm going to give you 3 questions. Sorry about that. But yes, here are the 3 questions, okay? Um, the first question, when you're about to make a serious major decision, ask yourself, am I acting from fear or am I acting from wisdom? Very important. You need to know. Remember, fear is going to tell you not to disappoint anyone else. Fear is going to make you feel that you've already invested so much time. But wisdom also tells you that growth requires re-evaluation and that your experience is never wasted. So ask yourself, am I acting from fear or am I acting from wisdom? The second question that you need to ask yourself when you're about to make a decision, does this decision align with the person I am becoming? You can't make decisions for your future self based upon what you've done with your past self. It's just like you can't, you're trying to steal second base, you got to leave first base. It's just not going to happen. So you have to ask yourself, does this decision align with the person that I'm becoming? The third question is, if I weren't afraid of other people's opinion, what would I choose? Now, that's important because, number one, oftentimes we don't want to even admit that other people's opinion play a part in our life. In reality, we all know it does, either directly or indirectly. It does. How much weight you give it, that's something that's different. But ask yourself, what would you do if you didn't have to worry about anyone else making any other comments about your decision? Now, I want to remind you that the goal isn't to become someone who never quits. I know it's been ingrained in us, but that's not the goal. The goal is to become someone whose decisions are no longer controlled by fear. And that's very, very, very important because sometimes we find ourselves in situations that we don't want to be in, but we were too afraid to make a different decision. Sometimes courage is staying, and sometimes courage is leaving. In both cases, courage begins with a renewed mindset. Before we start, and we're going to start in one moment, doing our bedtime affirmations. But before we start them, I just want to remind you that you don't change your life by changing your circumstances first. You change your life by changing the story you believe about those circumstances. That is what's most important. Never your circumstances, never your challenge, never whatever is happening to you. It's what is your feeling about it? What is it that you believe about it? That makes the difference. So now we're going to go into anchoring. We're going to anchor the fact that you make different decisions, and that does not mean that you are a failure. You're not a quitter because you decide to do something different. You're not a quitter. Okay? You're not a quitter. Take a deep breath. If you're in the room and you're ready, just type "I'm ready" in the comments. We can do this several different ways. I'm going to repeat each one twice. You can repeat them after me. If you want, you can type it in the chat box in the comments, because everyone's different. Some people are journalers, and it aligns with you. It lands better when you write or you type. Some people, they can just repeat it and can feel it the same way. I'm going to do, it's probably about 10 of these. If there is one or two that really, really, you can feel it, like it's it's for you. You know that you need to anchor that is going to help you moving forward. I want you to write it down. I want you to write it down. And when you write it down, before you go to bed at night, one of the last things that you should do before you go to bed, and we all have our own different bedtime rituals, but one of the last things you should do is to recite it out loud to yourself. And the reason being is that as you fall asleep, you're drifting off, your subconscious mind will hear that, especially if you repeat it more than once. And what it's going to do is it's going to play it back and play it back while you're sleeping. And then in the daytime, it's going to kind of steer you and direct you and bring things to you that, yes, let's support this belief. Same difference as if you're worried and you're scared and you're nervous about something, and then you go to sleep. And when you go to sleep, you dream about it. You're terrified, and, the problem becomes humongous. The next day, that's all you could think about. You fretting because you had the dream. That was just your subconscious mind that picked up what was happening and how you were feeling, and just played it, and then presented it right back to you. So it's important that you say these before bedtime. You can say them in the morning. A lot of people wake up in the morning and they say yes, and they do the affirmations, and that's fine. But at night, I personally feel is way more productive, and it will help shift your mindset. Even while you're sleeping, your subconscious mind will help you. Okay? So let's get started. Deep breath in, easy breath out. I give myself permission to grow beyond old beliefs. I give myself permission to grow beyond old beliefs. I no longer confuse changing directions with failure. I no longer confuse changing direction with failure. I choose wisdom over stubbornness. I choose wisdom over stubbornness. My identity is not defined by one decision. My identity is not defined by one decision. I release the need to prove myself to others. I release the need to prove myself to others. I trust myself to recognize when a season has ended. I trust myself to recognize when a season has ended. Growth requires courage, honesty, and self-awareness. Growth requires courage, honesty, and self-awareness. I am not afraid to reevaluate my path. I am not afraid to reevaluate my path. Every season has a purpose, and every ending can make room for a new beginning. That's a mouthful. Let's break that one down. Every season has a purpose. Every ending can make room for a new beginning. I choose alignment over appearances. I choose alignment over appearances. I renew my mind before I make my next move. I renew my mind before I make my next move. I am growing into the person God created me to be. I am growing into the person God created me to be. We're going to go through them once more. Take a deep breath, in and out. A cleansing breath, deep in and out. Let's go through it once more. I give myself permission to grow beyond beliefs. I give myself permission to grow beyond old beliefs. I no longer confuse changing direction with failure. I no longer confuse changing direction with failure. I choose wisdom over stubbornness. I choose wisdom over stubbornness. My identity is not defined by one decision. My identity is not defined by one decision. I release the need to prove myself to others. I release the need to prove myself to others. I trust myself to recognize when a season has ended. I trust myself to recognize when a season has ended. Growth requires courage, honesty, and self-awareness. Growth requires courage, honesty, and self-awareness. I am not afraid to reevaluate my path. I am not afraid to reevaluate my path. Every season has a purpose, and every ending can make room for a new beginning. That's a mouthful. I'm going to break it down again. Every season has a purpose, and every ending can make room for a new beginning. I choose alignment over appearances. I choose alignment over appearances. I renew my mind before I make my next move. I renew my mind before I make my next move. I am growing into the person God created me to be. I am growing into the person God created me to be. Take a deep breath in and out. We're going to go through these affirmations one last time. And again, I remind you, if there is a particular affirmation that sticks out with you, that aligns with you, write it down. And before you go to bed, repeat it. Repeat it out loud at least 3 times. Let it be one of the last things you do before you drift asleep. And your subconscious mind will help anchor that for you. And that's what's very important about affirmations. It anchors our new beliefs about ourselves. So let's go through this once more. I give myself permission to grow beyond old beliefs. I give myself permission to grow beyond old beliefs. I no longer confuse changing direction with failure. I no longer confuse changing direction with failure. I choose wisdom over stubbornness. I choose wisdom over stubbornness. My identity is not defined by one decision. My identity is not defined by one decision. I release the need to prove myself to others. I release the need to prove myself to others. I trust myself to recognize when a season has ended. I trust myself to recognize when a season has ended. Growth requires courage, honesty, and self-awareness. Growth requires courage, awareness. I am not afraid to reevaluate my path. I am not afraid to reevaluate my path. Every season has a purpose, and every ending can make room for a new beginning. That's a mouthful, so we're going to say that one again. I'm going to break it down, okay? Because it's packed. I love this one, but it's a lot. Every season has a purpose, and every ending can make room for a new beginning. I choose alignment over appearances. I choose alignment over appearances. I renew my mind before I make my next move. I renew my mind before I make my next move. I am growing into the person God created me to be. I am growing into the person God created me to be. Now, do anyone have one that it really, really, really aligned with them? One that you felt, one that you know that you need to anchor that need to become part of your new belief. If you do, or if you did, type it in the chat for me. I personally, the one that really landed with me as I was writing it was I choose alignment over appearances. That is so important because so often we care what others think. We care how others see us. I mean, let's be honest. When we look in the mirror, we're not really even looking in the mirror at ourselves. We're looking in the mirror to see what others are going to see when they see us that day. That's the reality. So for me to say, hey, I would rather be aligned with my purpose on my journey than what it looks like to anybody else. That's one that I always remind myself of, because it's very important for you to align yourself on your journey in spite of everyone else. And I know people will tell you that that's a selfish way to think, but it's not. Because you can't be the person that someone else may need you to be in their life if you're not who you're designed and destined to be. So this is gonna be the end for tonight of the affirmation session. I will do it. I do it usually Mondays and Wednesday. I try to do it early, like 8, but I'm noticing that 9-ish probably is a better time frame. But I will be here again Monday. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do have like a grief session where all are welcome who are grieving. So if you're someone who has experienced it recently, or you're struggling and you don't have a space to really say, hey, I'm not okay, you can join us. Join me and whomever show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm going to be a stickler and keep it at 8 o'clock, because that's something that people show up for. And we just talk about it, share different things, and it honors your loved one. It truly honors them. And yeah, just wanted to let you know that if you want to join, please do. I'm here to build a community. I'm a transformational coach. I like to say leader, to be honest. I've changed my life in ways that I didn't even realize, maybe even 10 years ago, that it was possible. And I can help you. I can guide you. I can't do it for you, but I can create this space and your mindset shift and help you reframe and just be who you want to be. Because most of us have an innate calling to be someone that we were created. The giftings there. The talents there. You have the vision. You don't get those things if it can't happen for you. It can happen for you. But what you have to do is show up for yourself. Just as you show up for everybody else, show up for yourself. Make the decision that this is going to be the year that I start putting myself first and aligning myself with my future. So I'm not going to get off on a tangent. This was a nice session. I hope the affirmations that you picked 1 or 2 out that you can apply to your life. And I'll see you guys either tomorrow night at 8 Eastern Standard in my grief session, or I'll see you next Monday evening when we do our next affirmation. I'll be on vacation, but this is not work for me. This is what I love. This is who I am. So I still will be going live. So have a great night.